The School of Politics, Policy, and Governance is proud to announce Professor Jeffrey Sachs as a distinguished honorary member of the SPPG Global Faculty.
Africa's growth prospects for the next 40 years are extremely strong. Africa could achieve during the next 40-year period essentially what China achieved. My view is that this is possible for Africa, and that this should be the aim.
Professor Sachs is a world-renowned economist, best-selling author, and educator. He is the director of the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University.
We have no shortage of need. We have no shortage of goals. We have no shortage of technologies and remedies. We have no shortage of goodwill in the world. What we must have is accountability of all for the common good.
He has advised 3 United Nations Secretaries General, presides over the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and has twice been named among Time Magazine's 100 most influential people.
My deeply held view that these next 40 years will be Africa's years. This will be a period of tremendous development, soon, and I think it is soon. We should aim for nothing less than 8 to 10% per year compound economic growth over the next 40 years.
Across Africa, Professor Sachs's work has left a lasting mark. From championing the Millennium Villages Project, which transformed rural economies in Ghana, Ethiopia, and Malawi, to partnering with the African Union on sustainable development strategies, to supporting Nigeria's drive to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals.
This is the time when all countries of the world must say, we are going to zero. No more emissions.
Professor Sachs is the esteemed keynote speaker for the SPPG Public Leaders Network Global Launch, scheduled for August 21st, 2025. The event will bring together leaders, policymakers, and changemakers from across Africa and the world on the theme, Empowering Public Leaders, Unlocking Potential Within the SPPG Network. We are honored to welcome Professor Jeffrey Sachs as a distinguished honorary member of the Global Faculty of the School of Politics, Policy, and Governance, as he brings his wisdom, global experience, and unwavering commitment to Africa's transformation into our shared mission of shaping a new generation of public leaders.
The SPPG is a really remarkable initiative and a remarkable contribution to Africa's future development. And I would expect nothing less from Obi, who is a gifted leader for Africa. And it's been my incredible honor and delight and joy in life to know her for the past quarter century. We've had great fun doing a few very nice things together, and we're going to do a lot more, but mainly you're going to do these things going forward. And Obi is empowering you to become leaders of Africa at a time when Africa will become a center of the world economy and global politics, and a great contributor to the 21st century. So let me say a few general words and then some specific words. Since I'm a teacher, I can give you a homework assignment also, so I want to do that. Because even if you're graduating, you never finish your homework. This is for sure. Now you have the major homework of Africa's rise in the 21st century to central stage in the world. Let me say first some words about politics, policy, and governance. I'm not sure exactly how those terms are defined in your classes, but I wanted to say a few words about them. Politics is perhaps the broadest of the three terms, and it can mean a lot of things. When Aristotle, the philosopher, used the term politics, he meant a full understanding of how the Greek city-states govern themselves and should govern themselves. So it was about the constitutions of these states, how their governments functioned, about the ethics of governance, about what can go right and go wrong in the collective decision-making of a polity or a polis. Today, when we use the word politics, we generally have a narrower definition. We mean something about the fight for power or the basic organization of the country's allocation of power. And the fight for power is interesting, but to my mind, it's a bit overrated. What counts in my mind is actually policy and governance, even more than politics, the way we use the term today. I'm not, for instance, very much impressed by all of these professional political advisors in the United States that tell candidates how to run for office. If all those advisors went away, we'd have better governance in our country. The way that politics is a kind of manipulation of money and messaging and narratives, to my mind, has weakened what we really want out of our common life, and that is policy and governance. Policy is the framework by which we make collective actions, by which we take decisions as nations or as cities or as regions like ECOWAS or SADC or other subregions, or what I think will be crucial in the future at the level of Africa as a whole in the African Union. But policy is crucial for well-being, choosing the right kinds of actions, understanding what should we be doing for our collective well-being. And the key to policy, in my view, is the common interest. In other words, the interest of society as a whole. We should not be making policy for the sake of a ruling family, for the sake of a few rich people, for the sake of Mr. Trump and his children. We should be making policy for the sake of our nation or our cities, and ideally for the sake of the whole world. Governance is the capacity to actually implement policies to achieve the goals that society has set in its policy making. Governance is actually getting the job done. And that is also a set of technical skills and also ethical skills. Ethical skills to know that it's important to pursue the common good and to use the policy instruments in a way that really serves the community. We are far from this ideal anywhere in the world. In my own country, in the United States, we have politics. We have corrupt, expensive elections where rich people give money to politicians so that if those politicians are elected, they vote for the interests of these rich people. Our system is broken. It's called democratic, but it's basically a corruption of democracy in that it's money politics, not really politics for the common good. When it comes to policy, we have almost no policy making in the United States now. We have executive orders by decree of a president who announces that he has emergency powers, and every day he makes decrees not based on any kind of constitutional order or based on logic or based on the common interest, but based on his whims or his family interests or the interests of particular constituents or donors, Silicon Valley or other very rich people. But that's not public policy. That is private policy that is using the instruments of government for very, very narrow purposes. And when it comes to governance, there's almost none now. Some of our institutions still function to an extent. I still pay my taxes, and we still have basic public services, but nothing much really works very well. And much of the time is spent in absolutely useless fights over who can do what to whom, rather than in actually implementing policies. I'll say, as one example, the physical infrastructure of any country is a core function of governance. The trains really should run, and they should run on time. And in the United States, we don't have 1 kilometer of fast rail, whereas in China, there is now 50,000 kilometers of fast rail, just the 50,000th kilometer just completed. China has governance. We don't have governance right now. So this is really the point that this is hard work, what you have studied. And even in a country supposedly successful and powerful, and that claims to dominate many places in the world, we have neither policy nor governance right now. We are adrift. And this is all to underscore how big are these challenges of pursuing the common interest, understanding how to do that by setting the right kinds of policies, and how to achieve the goals that are set by proper administration of the institutions of the government. Now, all of this is of inestimable importance for Africa today. And the main point that I want to emphasize and to give you the homework assignment is the next 40 years have to be the decisive breakthrough of Africa to global leadership, to prosperity, to well-being, and to a central role in world society and world economy. And this is possible. This really, I think, is the deepest aim of SPPG and should be your life's work to propel Africa to its full potential, to be a central place for global society. I believe that the next 40 years, and I'll take the date to 2063, which is the 100th anniversary of African unity, the birth of the Organization of African Union, OAU, in 1963, that these coming 4 decades can be a profound breakthrough. And this is where I think the efforts of politics, policy, and governance should focus. Let me start again with an analogy, because I think it's a real one, and that is already one that I've mentioned, China. In 1980, China was a country of the same population roughly as Africa. Today, both have 1.4 billion people, China and Africa. Africa, of course, is 55 countries. China is one, but the population of the members of the African Union and of China are the same. 40 years ago, China was as impoverished, more impoverished than Africa. 70 to 75% of the population living in extreme poverty. In the course of 4 decades, China became the largest economy in the world and arrived at the cutting edge of technology and arrived as the largest industrial economy in the world and as the leading trade partner of almost all of the world. This is the path that I want Africa to follow in the coming 4 decades. Not, of course, precisely China's path, but China's success in moving from a population still beset by poverty and by tremendous limits on infrastructure, and still playing a very dependent role in the world, to a center of global society and economy. China achieved economic growth averaging 10% per year for 40 years. And this is quite a remarkable achievement, of course. Growing 10% per year means that China doubled the size of the economy every 7 years. And it did that for more than 35 years. In other words, more than 5 doublings of China's economy. And that means an increase of the economy by more than 32 times, which is 5 doublings. And this, again, is how I think your task of policy and governance should be focused. Now, how did China achieve this kind of breakthrough, and how does it relate to what Africa can achieve in the coming years? The basic source of China's achievement was a high rate of investment in people and in physical infrastructure and in businesses in the 3 areas. And at the center of this accomplishment was China's investment in its people, especially its young people. And the core of that, of course, is a good, healthy start to life and a quality education. Because at the core, China's economic development is 40 years in which China went from a few years of education per person to being an education powerhouse, so that China reached the cutting edge of science and technology. And this, again, is, I think, at the very center of what I hope you will put in place. You've just had the benefits of a wonderful education in a highly innovative institution. Please spread education across Africa, and as leaders of Africa, put education at the very center of your politics, policy, and governance in the years ahead. Because with a highly educated population, nothing will stop Africa's economic development and its global leadership role. So this was the first area where China points the way. Second, as I mentioned, China has completed 50,000 kilometers of fast rail. China has built tens of thousands of kilometers of highways. China has built tens of thousands of kilometers of power transmission systems so that all parts of China are electrified. China has built tens of thousands of kilometers of fiber so that all parts of China are on the digital grid with 5G digital access. Indeed, they call it 5.5G because it's much faster than the 5G in the rest of the world. China invested heavily in its physical infrastructure so that the educated people would have all of the tools that they need: online access, digital tools, transport, power systems, in order to be able to use their skills to the maximum advantage. And third, China, of course, opened its economy to business, both within China and as an increasingly important and now the major trading economy of the world. And so the private business development was absolutely essential. The point I'm making is that China had a rich mix of public policy and governance on the one side and private sector entrepreneurship together. It's not the market economy alone, it's not government alone, it's the wonderful combination of the two that made possible this astounding historic breakthrough. But when I look at Africa, there is nothing that China accomplished that Africa cannot also accomplish along a similar trajectory of a massive investment in its young people, in their skills, their training, their knowledge, in a massive increase of the physical infrastructure, and in a massive boost of entrepreneurship and business development. And I know that the entrepreneurs are out there, both among those who are graduates of SPPG and also more broadly in society, because I've met so many African young entrepreneurs that are raring to go if they have the fiber, if they have the electricity, if they have the transport, and if they have the skilled young workers that they need to make their businesses fly. So this, to my mind, is the great potential in the coming decades. To accomplish this, Africa will need sterling governance. One of the reasons for China's success was not only the policy framework and the excellent planning that China was able to accomplish for many decades, but also the high quality of governance. China's political system, which is heavily an administrative political system based on promotions rather than on winning elections. It's a system that was developed already in China almost 2,000 years ago, by the way, but it's a system which fosters superb public administration, a high quality of governance, because young people start as local administrators. If they're good, they get promoted to a larger city. If they're very good, they become provincial administrators. If they are superb in that, they get summoned to Beijing and they become national leaders. And so it's a system, kind of a pyramid, in which progress towards the apex is based on demonstrated performance. It's actually quite a remarkable system of governance. But what I've experienced in more than 40 years is that at all levels of Chinese public administration, people are very well briefed, they're very knowledgeable, and they're very ambitious to do well in their assignments so that they get promoted to an even larger domain of expertise. But in this pyramid, it's also important there's an important message here for Africa as well. And that is that politics, policy, and governance needs to operate at multiple levels effectively. And this, I think, will be the key for Africa's success. And I want you to really help contribute to that. Africa must function without doubt at the Africa-wide level in the coming decades. All that infrastructure that I talked about is not within one country alone. Africa needs to be interconnected in an integrated power grid, in an integrated fiber system, in an integrated rail system, which has been dreamt of for more than a century, but is yet to be implemented. We need truly a continental economy. And the steps that are being taken right now towards the Africa Continental Free Trade Area are extremely important in this. The African Union is still in a building phase. It needs tremendous increases of capacity. It needs stronger powers. It needs more financing, not from outside donors, but from within Africa itself, because believe me, no outsiders care about Africa in the way that Africans care about Africa. So the AU must be an African institution, not owned or funded by anybody from the outside. But the African Union is the starting point for this successful 4 decades ahead. A truly unified Africa, so that we have 3 big units of 1.4 billion people: China, India, and Africa. And Africa, in that sense, can play its global leadership role. In recent years, I personally fought hard to include Africa as Africa, not at an individual country level, as a member of the G20, which I now think we need to call the G21, because the African Union has a permanent seat. But the idea that I had and that others had, and fortunately it has come to pass, is that Africa needs representation as Africa in the world today. Then come the regional units. And of course, in West Africa, ECOWAS, and in Southern Africa, SADC, and so forth. These are, again, very limited right now in their actual functioning. Indeed, ECOWAS has been almost pulled apart because of political changes in the Sahel, which I personally completely understand, by the way, because it was a final revolt against the French imperial presence on the continent, one that was long overdue in my mind. We need the regions to hold together, the sub-regions of Africa, because a lot of the infrastructure, while being continental-wide, will be built out intensively within regions. And let me emphasize one quick point, which is that the energy transformation that will be very helpful for Africa, moving to a high degree of solar power in a continent which is filled with wonderful sunshine, requires sharing that sunshine across long distances. It's intrinsic to a low carbon energy system that it be interconnected, so that the different energy sources are distributed and shared across a large geographic range. So I want to see these regional entities work effectively for the first time, and not to be divided and not to be pulled apart by outside influences, but to be strong and connected internally. Then, of course, come the national governments and the local governments. They need to be effective as well, and to share responsibility effectively. We need stronger city governments throughout throughout Africa where the cities have authority, tax authority, a political capacity, governance capacity as well, because most of life is going to be lived actually in Africa's cities, and most of the delivery of public services, including education, will be at the local level. So one of the great challenges for Africa in the years ahead is to make governance work at all four of these levels. At the level of Africa as a union, at the level of the sub-regions, at the level of the national governments, and at the level of the provincial and local governments. Well, one piece of good news, you graduates, you're going to fill all those positions. So you're going to be taking the leadership all across these institutions of politics in the years ahead. I won't delay you more today, except to say the coming decades will be the historic breakthrough for Africa. After so much history, so much time suffered at the hands of European imperial powers, so much loss of time when development needs to take place but has been held back for one reason or another, I believe we've reached the point of breakthrough. And it cannot come sooner at this point, because Africa also is going to be at the center of the global population. You know, back in 1950, Africa, taken as a whole, was less than 10% of the world population. Today, it's almost 20% of the world population. By the end of this century, it will be 40% of the world population. Africa's success will be literally the world's success. So let me congratulate you on your first step of this journey of leadership. Graduating means only the beginning of hard work, but now you are equipped with the tools for that hard work. So I commend you to go forward and lead your wonderful continent to all its full potential, for the sake of Africans and for the sake of the world. Congratulations to all of the graduates.